Hello, and we're back. This is Rick Edwards, and I'm joined today once again by Chris Niall, who's also known as the correspondent.
Hey Rick, how are you, buddy?
Good, thanks. We've got you over from the Windy Hill Windsock. I had to go into some negotiations to get you across again. I'm not sure what sort of payment's going to be involved.
Mate, happy with any kind of payment. What are you thinking?
Well, what do I have to give to the blokes over there? Are they interested in solid cash or Bitcoin, or what do you reckon?
I think maybe cash, beers, anything. Bitcoin, maybe not. No, let's go beer.
Beer, all right, we'll go for beer. That should get the job done. Talking about getting the job done, we didn't get the job done on Saturday, did we?
I don't even think we started the job, did we? That was a crazy night, wasn't it?
It was. It was one of those ones where you sort of pay your tickets to go and watch the movie, and the movie starts out okay, and then the plot just goes to shit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think someone tweeted during the week that we still managed, a goal a minute. We got 1 goal in the first minute and 3 goals in the last 3 minutes. So if you watch the beginning and the end, it was good. As you're saying, the main guts of the movie was completely shit out.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, it wouldn't get a very good rating. It was sort of, something was wrong. We've talked about this before, haven't we, earlier today, that the start, even though we got the first goal, something was wrong, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think as we discussed kind of offline, sometimes you can't put your finger on it. My thoughts are clearly, for whatever reasons, mentally the whole team just wasn't there. I don't know that, but that's the feeling you got. But again, as you said, we started well, so that first minute, which is a nice barometer. But I thought as the team lined up, that was a bit strange.
What caught your eye about the way we lined up?
Well, Dylan Shield was in the goal square, right? Zach Merritt was on the bench, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I think there was 1 or 2 others, but I'm happy with Stringer in the middle. But having what the hell is Merritt doing on the bench?
Yeah, it might be a tactic, but I can't see the sense in it really. You need to have your best players on the ground at the start.
For the start of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I can mount a very slight case around break the tag. They kind of start him on the bench. So, but then why the hell is Dylan Shield in the goal square?
Yeah.
Don't you want him in the middle with Stringer to get the pill?
Yeah.
So even though we got that first goal, it was weird.
Oh, it was
like
weird.
The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, you wouldn't think that Fremantle will start 5 on the bench this week.
No.
No.
That actually, I know we'll talk about that a bit later, but I don't know how we're going to. We've got no one that can go with 5.
No, we have. I do have a theory on that. So
okay, we'll come back to that maybe.
Come back to that later. Yeah. The thing that troubled me about the game was just the lack of pressure. I can't recall a game like that where the opposition just sort of walked through the corridor. They just owned the corridor. We couldn't lay a tackle at all, could we? I mean, we couldn't lay one that sticks.
No, I mean, I didn't see a lot of the first game of the season. We got pounded by the Giants, but the kind of similarities with just the lack of effort in both of those games. And I know after round 1 we were like, how the fuck can you not be up and about for the first game of the season? So maybe you can draw parallels to that. But again, we don't know why that happened.
Well, it's hard to explain why it happened, especially after the loss against Port. I mean, that was a 10-goal loss. So you think that they would have said, "Oh, come on, guys, we've really got to get this back on track now." And there are some non-negotiables. There were things in that game that we can't repeat.
Yep.
You think they would have got it right in a week, but it actually went the other way. It got worse.
It goes. I mean, does it tie back to the coach? I've not been a massive fan of Woosha this year, and I'm not sure whether he hears the answer. But clearly, as you're saying, where is that kind of non-negotiable? And even the press conference afterwards, and there were comments this week that and even I think a snippet from Devon Smith that he hasn't seen Woosha rant and rave at any point in his 18 months there.
Yeah, you're right. What was Smith's comment? I think he said sometimes it would be good if Woosha threw a whiteboard marker. Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing. Yeah. Now, you would have thought at some point in the last 2 weeks there was a case for him to just get a little bit upset.
Yeah, I think so too. the other comment that he made during the week was, we've had a couple of bad weeks, he said, but we had a really good 6 or 7 weeks before that. What do you think of that?
No, I don't think we had a good 6 or 7 weeks. I think we won 4 or 5 games, but in most cases, as we know, we fell over the line, right?
Well, we did, I think. I mean, the Gold Coast game, for a large part of it, we were putrid, weren't we? We just couldn't. We didn't look like a very good team.
Well, behind for the whole game, and as we know, results against Gold Coast either side, every other team has flogged them.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, back to your earlier point, 2 bad losses. We're away to Freo. Surely there have been some non-negotiables discussed this week.
Surely there have been. I heard that on Sunday the players all got together somewhere. It was a players-led sort of meeting. So hopefully some of the home truths were delivered then.
Mate, hopefully it wasn't at a local hairdresser's and they weren't all getting their hair done. I mean, how many more blokes have to bleach their hair before someone says, "Hey guys, can we just play footy?"
I think we're at a tipping point there. If one more guy bleaches his hair, there'll be a story in the Herald Sun. That's what I think. So in terms of reasons why we're at where we are, and I think we're an average side. Let's not beat around the bush. Of course, there's injuries, and might go into that a bit later. But who do you think is the player that we're missing the most this year?
I think there's a few players, of those that have been injured. Clearly we miss Joey.
Joey's important, isn't he? I mean, there's no
structure.
Yeah.
We miss a ruckman. The fact that we don't have one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Danaher, if he had a half decent year, he would have delivered us 50 goals. And if he had a really good year, would have been 65. So there's no escaping that. Bell Chambers, definitely. I'm still. The jury's not out on Clark. I think the jury's decided that he's.
Well and truly.
That decision has come in. But the one player I think we missed the most this year is Devon Smith. And that's because he's a tackling machine, obviously. Last year he had 186 tackles for the year. So he's averaging 8 every time he pulled the jumper on.
Yeah, which is a lot. What is it? 70 or 80 tackles for a team is a good number, right?
Well, it is, yeah, that's right. So that was phenomenal. That was a new record, tackling record, 186. This year, if you look at who's got the most tackles, it's Zach Merritt with 102, then Shield on 94, Waller on 87. So they're a long way behind where Smith was. So some of his better games last year, Smith, there was one against the Swans, which we won, and he had 8 tackles against the Cats. We had that great game at the MCG, and he had 10 against Port Adelaide earlier in the year. He had 11. We won that one as well. So the other thing when you look at tackling is inside 50 tackles as well. And those stats are really interesting comparing this year to last year.
Yep.
Because the gut feel is that we're not a forward pressure team, isn't it? That's what you sort of think. And the figures back that up. So last year, 2018, so we had 14 games where we had 10 or more inside 50 tackles. And we had another 6 games where we had a massive 15 or over.
Okay.
Right. Compared to this year, we only had 10 tackles, 10 or more inside 50 tackles 10 times, so compared to 14. And in terms of 15 or over, we only achieved that mark twice this year compared to 6, right? Yeah. So that's a massive drop-off, compared to 6 last year. So we're clearly not a forward pressure side. That's not part of our DNA, is it, this year?
No, and linking that back to Dev Smith, who was playing that half forward role. Clearly, his absence, that's the main reason those numbers are down. And we know that the sides, the best sides and or better sides, the last number of years has been about forward pressure.
Well, it has been about forward pressure. I mean, that's the blueprint that works. So not only are we missing Smith, but he also led by example last year, didn't he?
Yep.
So blokes came along with him. They saw the pressure that he applied.
Yep.
And they saw the results he got. He'd either get a free kick or the ball would come loose or whatever, or he'd stop one of their forays forward. So a lot of blokes jumped on board, and we had a lot of guys who tackled well. Merritt, Waller was great last year, wasn't he?
He was.
With his tackling. So I think he was a real leader in that sense, and no one has filled his shoes, quite clearly.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, we don't seem to have, and not. Look, he's not an enforcer, but you're right in what he was doing on field and people following him. But we don't seem to have many players that can take the lead, and if you know what I mean.
No, we don't. I mean, the bloke had 15 tackles in one game last year. That's massive, isn't it? Really. I mean, there is no one that's been able to replicate what he did last year. One bloke who does tackle well, Snelling, unfortunately he got injured, but he was showing a little bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, he for a little bloke he goes in pretty hard. I mean, the other guy. I mean, I think Dyson Heppel, who's been injured, he has a crack and what have you. And you've already mentioned Zach Merritt. He always produces on regards tackles. But outside of that, I know you gave the numbers earlier. We just seem to lack. A couple of blokes, old-fashioned, whether it's a Dean Solomon, Dean Wallace, someone that's going to crunch people, make them earn it.
Do we have any angry players?
No, that's what it's almost what I'm alluding to, isn't it? We don't have an enforcer.
No, we don't. Someone was talking about, I think it might have been Gary Lyon, he's a big fan of Elliot Yeo, but it could have been someone else.
Yeah.
Anyway, the argument is that the Yeo plays angry every time he steps out, and he does, he runs both ways, but he just loves the physical component of the game, doesn't he? He loves tackling.
Yep.
He loves the whole, that part of the game.
Yeah, and we know from, previous years, as I mentioned with Dean Solomon, you can throw in Mark Johnson.
Yep.
Not the most skillful footballers, but just love the contest and loved hurting people and tackling. Dev Smith, does that, but he's tiny.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that's right. He's not big as Sullivan was a fair size. And Mark Johnson, wasn't he? Was he Mr. Sunbury? That's great.
He was Mr. Sunbury. Yeah, correct. He was. And then you think about players of, let's say, Solomon's size that we've got on the list, which is like a David Myers, Jaden Laverde. But these are blokes who can't even get in the side consistently.
No, they can't. No,
and I'm not saying they should be in as enforcers first. They should be playing consistent footy.
Yeah.
Now I don't think Myers will be around next year.
No.
And Laverde, he's a big unit. He's 6'3", but he's just struggling to deliver.
Yeah, he is struggling to deliver. Whether he's sort of at the crossroads really, whether he goes on or not, whether he becomes a player or he doesn't, or whether they look to trade him out. The couple of blokes we do have that could play angry and sometimes do, I suppose, a Stringer. I saw Stringer trying to break a lot of tackles, and the Bulldogs were really enjoying tackling him on Saturday. I saw a couple of times him try and get through, and they pulled him down. But he's got that little bit of whatever you call it inside, and he'll take blokes on. McKernan can be a bit angry as well, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right about Stringer because and he's strong and what have you. I'm kind of McKernan. I'm kind of each way. I think McKernan would like to be tough, but all aspects of his game come across as a bit ungainly. He just, even the way when he marks the ball, he just looks, I'll say, slightly wrong or awkward. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He does at times, but when he's on. I remember that.
When
he's on, he looks bulletproof. He looks like the best player that we have.
When he's clunking, he'll jump from anywhere, and he's a guy that I'm pretty sure he's already done this a couple of times. He'll kick 3 or 4 goals in a quarter.
Yeah. That mark against Gold Coast late in the game, he marked it at 50. Just played on and just slotted it from 50 on.
Ran to his left and then slotted it on the right. You're going, who does that?
Who does that? Yeah. So that's another question. A bit like Laverde. Will McKernan become a player or will he not? He's certainly.
I don't think because he's late 20s, right? So he's 10 years in the system. I think we're getting as much out of him as we can. It just seems to be. Well, I mean, I think his career has been slighted or blighted by inconsistency.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just the way that he is.
Yeah. It is.
So he's played some good games for us, but he's not the Messiah.
No, he's not. It'd be really interesting to see what happens when Danaher comes back next year. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, which I mentioned was injuries. So there was a bit of stuff going around last week. This Deakin University PhD candidate, sounds like a bloke smarter than me.
And me, mate.
He did a study, comprehensive study on injuries and how they impact teams, and he found that if a team's 10 most valuable players missed a combined 27 matches, that team finished 9th or lower on average and missed the finals.
So that's saying if your best 10 missed, on average 3 games
Yep.
in a season,
Yep.
in the same season.
Yep.
Is that the best 10? They don't have to be out all the time, as in not at the same time?
Not at the same time,
Right.
no.
Okay.
No. So he did a table after he did this study over a couple of years, and so Richmond finished on top this year with 56 games missed.
Okay.
And we were in the middle. But I actually redid that because
how can we be in the middle?
well, yeah, I thought, yeah, hang on, this is wrong. With all respect, Mr. PhD. So it was done on who finished in your top 10 in 2018. So there was a couple of
BNF from last year.
Couple of anomalies there, like Joey didn't finish in our top 10 last year, for example.
Wasn't playing, correct. Okay.
Wasn't playing. So I did it again with our correct top 10, which I'll just go through quickly. Smith, Heppel, Merritt, Fantasia, Waller, Bellchambers, Hurley, Hooker, Danaher and Shield. They sound like top 10?
Yep, they do.
So I did that again, and we finished with 60 games missed. So we're on top of the ladder.
Well, it's good to be on top of the ladder for something.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great analysis this guy's done, and really good that you've adjusted it for obvious reasons, because you throw Danaher in. I'd be interested to know. I'm assuming that Collingwood, because they had a bad year last year and this year, I'm assuming they're in the top bit of that ladder, but I don't care. That's Collingwood.
That's right. That's right. It's not the Collingwood podcast, is it?
No. So that's interesting, isn't it? That I think we all clearly know that injuries have had a big impact, but you never want to use them as an excuse. But it's hard not to make reference to them when you're missing, whether it's a full forward, centre half forward, ruckman, a couple of very good on-ballers.
Yeah. Well, as you said, I mean, those players are crucial to our spine, our structure, aren't they?
Yeah.
The other not so obvious thing in terms of injuries is that we've also lost our second tier players, so players who would have stepped up and I'm pretty sure would have done pretty well. So I'm talking about Sam Draper. Yep. I'm talking about Zerk Thatcher. So with Zerk Thatcher, he sort of had a few little niggly injuries throughout the year and has never been able to string some games together and get back to his top form. But I really rate the guy, and I think he would have come in if he had a decent run out at VFL level. But he's had a sort of interrupted season. The other guy who I'd call a second tier player is Stewart as well. And I know he had a bad year last year. He was getting too far up the ground for a key forward, so it wasn't kicking a lot of goals. But 2017, he did kick 22 goals, so he showed that he was sort of capable.
Yeah, I think, again, Jimmy Stewart, no world beater, as you're saying, but what is he, 6'4", 6'5", he's a centre half forward, and we haven't had, we've had injuries to, I think, Stringer as a 6 foot something forward, but, he's been the only constant this year.
Well, when we've had Brown and McKernan out and Danaher out, Stringer's had to play as a key forward, hasn't he?
And Stringer is best, as we know, playing that half forward role.
Yeah.
As a second or third forward, because he can be a big midfielder But yeah, you're right. He's had to lead the forward line.
He has,
so
yeah.
What a surprise! We can't score.
Yeah. And then of course, we went with that experiment of having Waller as the centre half forward, the crash pack centre half forward.
Yeah, the Alan Davey strategy. It's interesting, with Draper, because I was at a coterie function earlier this week, and Adrian Dodoro was one of the speakers, and he said exactly what we all know about Draper, that he did his knee in the second quarter of reserves game in the week before we were going to play the Swans, and he was going to be managed and play half the game because he was going to debut the next week. And I think he did his knee at the 25th minute mark of the second term.
No, that's right.
So with him, and they, and look, the good news is they've signed him for 4 more years. St Kilda was sniffing.
St Kilda have missed out on another big fish, haven't they?
Yeah, well, a bloke that's not even played a game. So look, fingers crossed. I think we've both seen Draper in the flesh playing, and he's clearly got ability. He's still learning.
Yeah.
But if he keeps improving the way that he has, he's going to be a very good ruckman for us for 10 years.
Yeah, for those, some people might not be across Draper and what makes him good. He's very good with getting his hand on the ball first tap, isn't he? I mean,
yeah.
I think he regularly got sort of around 40, 50 hit-outs in 2018.
Yep. Yeah, when you watch him, he has, I'll kind of use the term, like soft hands.
Soft hands, yeah.
The ruck contest.
Yeah.
A bit like Simon Madden, one of the greatest ruckmen ever to play the game. And, shout out to Polly Farmer, RIP. Condolences to the family with his passing this week. So
anyway, I was sorry to hear the second greatest ruckman ever passed away.
That's right. Yeah, so I mean, Draper, as we know, he comes from an English football background. I think only been playing footy for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Clearly is he's clearly, I'll say, an athlete, or he's got a great athletic ability, and all the clubs tried to do in the last number of years is teach him the nuances of the game. And again, as I said earlier, you and I have both seen him, and we like what we see.
Yeah, you're right. They've just been trying to teach him the nuances. The basics are there, the fundamentals are there. His size is something that I really like about him. He's a big guy, and I think he could be that sort of intimidating sort of ruckman. He's got the frame to push blokes around, and as you said, he's really agile. He covers the ground well, and I think, all going well, I could see next year a bit like the Adelaide situation where we had that bloke,
Jenkins?
No, the ruckman, the young ruckman, Riley O'Brien, I think it is.
Yep. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he just came out of nowhere and replaced Jacobs this year, and I think that could even happen next year where all of a sudden Draper goes past Bellchambers.
With all due respect to T-Bell, I would think next season might be his last season.
Yeah.
He's getting, obviously getting to the very back end of his career, but injuries this year, he had a good run the last couple of years, but we know prior to that, he just seems to, he plays 15 games, lack of continuity, but I really don't see him pushing past next season.
No, you're right. He does have trouble, doesn't he, with his body. Even when he was playing this year, you sort of look at him and you think, what's wrong with him? Looks like he's carrying something. He just finds it hard to back up.
So are we going to try and get Paddy Ryder back for back to Windy Hill? Or is too much damaged goods?
Too much. I mean, there's a story, isn't there? There's a real story behind the story that was sold. I'm not confident on what that story was, but apparently he left with some fairly interesting circumstances.
Yeah, that's right. But I think my question's more about if T-Bell's got one more season, we need another ruckman. Yeah,
we do, don't we? Yeah,
because we've only, if it isn't T-Bell and you got Draper, hopefully comes back up for next year. But if Draper goes down for whatever reason, and Bellchambers is on his last legs, we know that unfortunately Zach Clark's not the answer, and nor is McKernan.
I think they need to look at a player who's not getting a lot of games at a club, someone like a Ryan Abbott at Geelong, or maybe a Naismith at Sydney who's had some injury problems. So someone like that, just as an insurance policy.
Totally agree.
Because our insurance policy this year didn't really work.
Well, I don't know what premiums we're paying. We can't have been paying much premiums because we got fuck all as a result.
Which brings us to the Fremantle game. Of course, Zach Clark will be up against his former teammates on Saturday night.
What are the odds, mate? So we're up against Freo with Sandilands announcing his retirement. Ballantyne's back in and he's retiring, or he's not getting a renewed contract. I mentioned Polly Farmer's passing. Is there some other event happening in Perth this weekend that's going to fire them up?
They've got a few things to fire them up, haven't they, really? I don't know. It's going to be a difficult game, but I've got this sense that we've finally drawn a line in the sand, to use something from a couple of years back.
Yep.
And I think they'll come out this week with some real intent and vigour. What do you think?
I hope so, and I'd like to think so, but really the proof's in the pudding, right? I have to wait and see. And look, Fremantle they're an up and down side, right? But if we get them, they're an average side, right? Take Fife out, one or two others, and maybe Hill,
Walters,
Walters, and surprising. I mean, the good thing is we made 5 changes. I know that we made 6 the week before, but 4 of those 5 are in our best 22.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a lot stronger side, isn't it? Really.
And hopeful that Sard's hammy's okay. Hopeful that Hurl's shoulders okay. I listened to, you might have heard the same the audio piece that Hurl's basically has put in massive work over the last 30 days, almost pinpointing this game as the game that he was aiming to get back for.
Yeah.
And look, I know there's a lot of people who've got, I'll say, negative views on the club's ability to manage players and injuries and what have you, but you got to trust the club and the players. They're not going to select blokes who have a massive injury cloud.
No, you're right. It seems like that, as you say, Hurley has worked really hard in his rehab to come back, and Sard, we've heard during the week that he has really been pushing it. That he thought he could play last week.
Yeah, so I heard the same, that he was, and so that again he might have had a slight twinge. I know Stringer, there was doubts over Stringer, doubts over McKernan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that Heppel's playing, so he's come up for a second week. So again,
come up well. They said Fantasia's also come up a lot better.
So maybe to your point, there is some more than hope that we should have some optimism that the side is feeling better than they were a week or two ago. Parrish and Francis had a week off. Minor head knock and what have you. So hopefully those two guys, and Parrish has had a good 10 weeks.
You're spot on, yeah. He's been really important, hasn't he? Really, he's become the midfielder we always hoped he would.
Yeah, for a top 10 pick. I've always drawn parallels to Joel Selwood, as in around size and what have you. That we need him to become. If he became anything like a Selwood, that'd be great. But I think this year is the first time we've seen him consistently. Because he's a similar size, comes from the same part of Victoria. But if he can be, 2/3 the player of Joel Selwood, and I think he can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he can be as well. This year was a real sort of breakthrough year, I think, for him.
Is it year 5 for him? Maybe something like that. Probably.
Yeah, he came in 2016.
Okay.
Didn't he, when we had the start?
Yeah, so he's still 21 or what have you.
Yeah. So just on the injured players you mentioned, I think I wouldn't be surprised if there was a late change. It looks like they're bringing Zirk Thatcher and Clark over to Perth on the plane. So you never know that there could be a late change there. The omission of Clark, what do you think of that? It's a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, because he's built 6 or 8 weeks of good footy. Admittedly, he didn't have a great game last Saturday.
He didn't have a great game, did he?
The only person that did was Zach Merritt. So I think it's a bit hard on him. The flip side to it is, he's played the run with tag role. Has the club thought, or the coaching panel thinking there isn't really a run with?
Is there in Fremantle side? Is there a sort of Brownlow medalist gun inside midfielder running around or not?
There's a bloke called Fife.
Oh, that's right. There it is. That's right.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, clearly, but I don't know whether I don't know. In a way, they've almost decided they don't think Clark can nullify Fife, right?
Well, he's similar to Cripps, I would have thought. Fife is similar to Cripps.
That's what I think.
A really big bloke.
So wouldn't you give him a crack?
Yeah, I think so too. I'm a bit surprised with that. I think their plan B is Stringer. So they like to send Stringer onto Fife for centre bounces.
I agree for centre bounce, but Stringer can't run with him though.
You're right. You can't go around the ground with him.
Where Clark can.
Clark can, yeah. Last time they did play though, Freo, Stringer went to centre bounces on Fife and got 3 centre clearances.
Yeah.
So he can get it out of the centre, but you're right. He's not
doubt out of the centre, but it's more around the ground.
Yeah, who's going to run with Fife around the ground? I don't know.
I've no idea.
Yeah, maybe that's something Zach Clark can do.
Zach Clark?
Go from one Clark to the other Clark.
Yeah, but I think you're right. And look, so they've been smart with the two emergencies because, again, you've got a tall guy and a midfielder, and it's classic. I'll say it's classic Sheedy that you take Zerk Thatcher over and he might play his first game.
Yeah.
Without all the the profile.
That's right. Without all the profile, I'd like to see him going to go. As I said earlier,
he's going to be a good player. He's a great intercept mark, isn't he?
You've seen him in the VFL, Chris. He does take a good intercept mark, and he's got that nice closing speed, which is a little bit Alex Rance-esque, I think. So he's
got funny hair options. He's got the rinse through the hair, hasn't he?
He's got the rinse, hasn't he? Here's another one, eh? So maybe we've already reached that quota of bleached hair. So
I think we have, mate. We're done.
We have. I think we're almost done, aren't we?
Yeah, it was a good chat, mate.
Well, it was a good chat. So it's a must-win game this week. I think we've got to win the last two, don't we, to figure in September?
Yeah, I think if we win this week, we're a big chance of knocking the Pies off the following week.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, we can still get in with one win, but you don't want to be relying on other results, do you? So.
No, you don't want to rely on other results, but we will if we have to.
Yeah. The bad thing from the last 2 weeks is the fact that our percentage has been hammered.
Oh, it's 93% at the moment. Yeah, I think the Suns are getting close to us.
Down from 105. So look, there's a very good chance we'll miss the 8 on percentage.
Yep.
And that's our fault.
It is our fault. Absolutely, we just dropped our bundle the last couple of weeks. But hang in there, Bomber fans. The Bombers might be back, and we might be back. Who knows? But thanks for tuning in again.
All right, go Dons.